Interpretation of the colors by the United States Space Force, and the singing of our national anthem, performed by retired Master Sergeant Caleb Green.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now, please welcome a brass quintet from the President's own Marine Band.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. Happy 4th of July. Happy 250 years. This is a really special day. So we are a brass quintet from the President's Own United States Marine Band. That first piece that we played was a march by Henry Fillmore called Americans We. He wrote this march in 1929, but I think there's some really nice messaging that Fillmore had with this march, and it comes in his dedication. His dedication said, "I dedicate this march to all of us," and I think that's a really nice sentiment for today. So the next piece that we're going to play is actually, we're going to shift gears and we're going to enjoy the March King, John Philip Sousa. And yes, so John Philip Sousa was the director of the Marine Band from 1880 to 1892. And it was actually the year after he left the Marine Band is when he when he composed our next march. And he was inspired for the name of this march by his son marching in a parade in honor of the Liberty Bell. And the Liberty Bell has gone on to be one of Sousa's most famous marches, and we're looking forward to performing it for you right now. Thank you. So, Catherine Lee Bates wrote a poem called America that was published back on the 4th of July in 1895. And a few years prior to that, Samuel Augustus Ward wrote a tune in 1883. And it's interesting because it wasn't until 1910 until these two things, the poem and the music, ended up coming together to be known as America the Beautiful. And I think an interesting thing that's of note is that Ward actually didn't live long enough to experience those two entities coming together to turn into such a integral and important part of our musical history with America the Beautiful. But we're going to perform that now, and hope you enjoy this, I think, really interesting and fascinating combination of poetry and music contributing to our musical history. Well, thank you. So the director of the Marine Band has an interesting role where they are one of the musical advisors to the White House. And even back in John Philip Sousa's day, he was working on, for the Arthur administration, alternative options for Hail to the Chief. And that's where the tune for this next piece came from. And it actually ended up not working out that way, and Hail to the Chief is obviously still what's used primarily today. But being in the Marine Corps, we got our march. So we're going to perform the official march of the Marine Corps, John Philip Sousa's Semper Fidelis. Well, it has been a true pleasure having a chance to celebrate the 4th of July and our country's 250th anniversary with you this morning. We have one more piece that we'd like to play. It's God Bless America. And I would hope that you would be encouraged to sing along and join us. Happy 4th of July.
Please welcome the Acting Archivist of the United States, Edward C. Forst.
Everybody hear me in the back okay? Thumbs up. That is some walk-on music, isn't it? That is spectacular. So excited. Good morning, everybody. You know, some might say there's no better place to be at the beginning of the 4th of July. I would say this is the best place to be at the beginning of the 4th of July. I want to express deep appreciation to our Space Force Color Guard, to Master Sergeant Caleb Green, and obviously to the Marine Corps Band. They were just absolutely spectacular. So congrats to all of them. Thank you. You know, it's interesting. We had the Space Force here, and we had the U.S. Army, and they're the bookends in terms of when services came into duty for the United States. And again, at the archives, we are the bookends. We're the beginning from the Revolution all the way forward, and we want to celebrate that. And just as I look around the room, do we have any active duty military and veterans? Raise your hands. Thank you. You know, as I stand here too, I am thrilled to see young people in the crowd. In fact, my kids are here as well. And you will come back every 4th, and you guys get prepared to lead us on our 300th anniversary when that time comes as well. You know, we're sitting here shoulder to shoulder, but we also stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And it's really important to understand that and to appreciate that. You know, this is everyone's capital city. Many people don't live here, but you came and you're committed and you're celebrating, and we're doing that with you. And we're celebrating 250 years ago that the Second Continental Congress unanimously approved the text of the Declaration of Independence. And that's the start of our great nation. It changed the world forever. That document, by the way, is right upstairs in this building, and you should all go see it, pause, and reflect on the patriotism before us and what you bring to us as well. You know, these founders, they put their lives on the line by signing that declaration. One of the signers was a guy named Benjamin Rush, and he wrote a letter to John Adams, and in it he said, "We were called up one after another by the President of the Continental Congress to subscribe to what we at the time believed to be our death warrants." That's the risk everybody took by standing up and signing that declarations. They didn't know if they'd defeat the British. That army was the most powerful on earth. And these were our founders, farmers, merchants, tradesmen, who were extraordinary and believed we should all have the American dream. Now, a bit of trivia, you know, George Washington actually didn't sign the Declaration of Independence. He was a little bit busy. He was the commander-in-chief of our troops, and he was in New York City. But on the 9th of July, he gathered thousands of those troops, and he read the Declaration of Independence. They read it there, just as we're going to do today, as we've done for the last 50 years here at the archives, and we're going to continue to do forever and forever. That's our enduring promise to you. I'm profoundly honored that President Trump asked me to serve in this acting capacity. And every single time I go into the rotunda, which you will do later today, and I see these founding documents, I pause. It is reverence in the room. And I hope you're struck the same way. Take your turn. Go up there. Get this close, literally, to the Declaration of Independence, to the Bill of Rights, to the Constitution. They're next to each other, and that's what you're able to do today. Get this close and personal to it and reflect. Embrace all of our shared honor to be here with passion and pride, what we've achieved and what we're going to achieve tomorrow. This is a magnificent nation. God bless America. Now, it's my privilege to introduce our first speaker, my friend, America's 33rd Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Hold still. I got a couple of things here. Anybody from Texas in the room? All right, go. Go Texas. All right. A proud Texan, Texas A&M and UT Law School. And like many of our founders, Secretary Rollins was brought up on a farm. If you hit a rodeo any day, she's not a bystander. She's going to be mixing it up with the best of them. In 1862, President Lincoln established the Department of Agriculture. He called it the People's Department. Vital work that touches the lives of every single American then, just as it does today. Secretary Rollins, thank you for all you and your colleagues at Agriculture do. Thank you for bringing to life America's 250th with the great American state fairs. I'm really happy to have you. Thank you, ma'am.
Really beautiful. Thank you. Well, Ed, you're doing such a remarkable job, and like many in the Trump administration, serving in more than one role, but I don't know that there is any that is more meaningful than this role as acting archivist. And the team that I've met from Maureen and so many here over the last year and a half, it is my deep honor, and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude and humbled by just being able to be here today. So thank you so much. How about another round of applause for Mr. Forrest? I think about 250 years ago at this very moment, and I think about going back to that little room in Philadelphia, 1,600 square feet, where just over 50 of the world's greatest, boldest, most courageous men ever gathered. And I think about the sweltering heat of that day. Take us back. I think God is giving us the same scenario today. I think about those men in their woolen waistcoats and their breeches who were going on almost no sleep, if any at all. I think about the rectangle of narrow wooden tables that had been pulled together, that they all sat around as they were debating and discussing and editing. I think about Thomas Jefferson, who took a room just a block away, had a little writing desk made to his specifications. He was a very specific man who sat at that desk night after night after night, who took the advice and the edits and sometimes very strong disagreements to heart as he wrote and he wrote and he wrote. I think about the weight of that moment 250 years ago, and as Ed mentioned, they all believed they were signing their death warrant. They believed that by putting their sacred honor and their fortune and their lives behind this nascent idea of liberty, that it would be the end for them and their family, but that liberty and freedom was worth it. I think about the inheritance that we are standing on today, that are now part of the fabric of our nation, that have been woven in every decision, every battle, every remarkable move that the United States of America has made in the last 250 years, proving every naysayer wrong. But at this moment, 250 years ago, to the minute, they were debating for hours and hours. They argued over which phrasing would best articulate the abuses that our 13 colonies had suffered under the King from England. They argued over how to articulate the rights that had been violated at that time in our history. And they fought over how to best articulate the justice of their cause. They were making a case not just to their fellow Americans and not just even to the British King and Parliament, but they were making their case to the world in that room in sweltering heat with their woolen waistcoats sitting at narrow wood tables 250 years ago to this moment. Millions of people were paying attention and watching around the world, some hoping that our forebears would fail, but many more hoping and praying around the world that they would succeed for the sake of freedom and for the light everywhere. The final document that the delegates approved, and it is in this building. I know Ed said that. Let us never forget how extraordinary the opportunity it is for us to be here and to come within inches of that document. Don't get it too close to it. You know, the people will come in and pull you back. But to be able to stand there and see it is just an incredible, incredible freedom this country allows. The final document that the delegates approved 250 years ago today, by proclaiming that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our founding fathers crafted an enduring statement, at once political but also moral, grounded in the truth that our rights come not from government, but they come from God. As Thomas Jefferson explained at the time, it was intended to be an expression of the American mind and to give to that expression the proper tone and spirit called for by the occasion. In praising the Declaration, a century later, our great president and founder of the United States Department of Agriculture, President Abraham Lincoln, later called it an immortal emblem of humanity. And indeed it is. But more than that, it is also a profound act of faith. The very last sentence of the Declaration of Independence asserts, quote, a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. The founders knew that they could accomplish nothing without God's grace, especially in the face of overwhelming and insurmountable odds. After all, they were standing up against the most powerful empire in the world with very little training and almost less supplies. The fight for independence would be long and hard in the years to come. Yet in the Declaration, they boldly pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor to the cause before them. Not because it was easy, but because liberty admits of no compromise ever. 250 years later, we stand here as the inheritors of that courage, inheritors of their faith, and inheritors of their unwavering commitment to the righteous cause of liberty, which still rallies us to its defense today, as it did to our ancestors on the fields of Yorktown, as it did to our ancestors on the hills of Gettysburg, and as it did to our ancestors on the beaches of Normandy. Each generation must take a stand for freedom. And while the Declaration of Independence is physically housed in this beautiful building behind me, its spirit animates the heart of every patriot. We have been blessed with the task of writing the next chapter, the next 250 years of our great American story, armed with the legacy of our founders, enlightened by the faith in Almighty God, and motivated by eternal truth. There is no doubt that the spirit of 1776 is alive and well, and the best is truly yet to come. God bless America. Thank you.
Okay, you got to feel great that that's our Secretary of Agriculture, right? Thank you very much. So we talk a lot about the gems that are inside the National Archives system, and there are the gems, and you're going to see some of them today. But you also should understand we have 13 billion pieces of paper that we're the stewards of. We have the military records of every serviceman and woman back to the Revolutionary War. We have pieces of paper about discoveries and ingenuity and patents as well. And speaking of patents and ingenuity, in 1906, an upstate man named Willis Carrier received a patent as the inventor of air conditioning. And I think we ought to be celebrating Willis today, okay? Now, I would like to give a big welcome to my dear friend of more than a decade, Representative Elise Stefanik of the 21st District of Upstate New York. Let's give it up for Elise. Now in her 6th term, but when Elise was elected to Congress, she was the youngest woman ever elected to Congress in the history of America, which is pretty great. We are thrilled to have you here today. You're a trailblazer. You're a history buff, and we're going to hear a little bit about that. You passionately represent your district, which includes Saratoga, which was a key revolutionary battleground, but also Hamilton County, which is named after Alexander Hamilton. And as Elise reminds me, while the Continental Congress was meeting in Pennsylvania, Revolutionary War blood was being shed in upstate New York, and that's where she's from. So please welcome Elise Stefanik.
Well, thank you, Ed, for that kind introduction and for your exceptional stewardship preserving our priceless founding documents as acting archivist of the United States and GSA administrator. I also want to recognize my good friend, our fantastic Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who has been out riding horses with our farmers every evening in the sweltering heat at the rodeo of the Great American State Fair. And thank you as well to former Secretary of Transportation Rodney Slater, who will be speaking later in the event, for your leadership at the Foundation for the Archives. My fellow Americans, it is truly an honor to join you as we commemorate our great nation's semi-quincentennial, the 250th birthday of the United States of America. Here we stand at the National Archives, at the great apotheosis of the foundation of our constitutional republic, home of our Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. Hundreds of millions of Americans from all walks of life, from sea to shining sea, have made pilgrimage to this sacred site in awe and astonishment, with gratitude and appreciation, with patriotic pride and humble prayer. Because the words and ideals set forth in these documents are as timeless as they are miraculous. 250 years ago, everyday yet extraordinary Americans declared our independence, giving birth to the greatest nation in the history of mankind. They declared, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure those rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." It is hard to overstate how, at that time, this was a radical idea, that all men are created equal, and that these unalienable rights come not from a king, nor a monarchy, nor the government, but from God, and that a government of the people derives its powers not from the state, but from the consent of the governed. This concept of unalienable rights laid out in our Declaration leads directly to the preamble of our Constitution, which begins with the profound, "We the people." This fundamental idea of self-government that we still deeply cherish today. It is this covenant that elected officials have in service to the people across this great nation. That is why we proudly call Congress the People's House. And of course, along with the Constitution, we have the Bill of Rights to protect these freedoms and liberties of we the people. And while we correctly study the brilliance and fortitude of our founding fathers who wrote these words and mutually pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, not just to each other, but to this declaration 250 years ago, we must remember these were everyday fellow Americans, farmers, teachers, brewers, shopkeepers, bookkeepers, shoemakers, and carpenters. Their profound words exemplify the extraordinary leadership and wisdom of everyday citizens. The foundational documents in these archives, beginning with our Declaration, are the cornerstone that built and inspired the great canon of documents and oration that propelled American freedom over the past quarter millennium. The Emancipation Proclamation, the Gettysburg Address, women's suffrage, I Have a Dream. As we reflect on our incredible history of the past 250 years and the challenges of today, it is important to remember that our brilliant founders expected Americans would celebrate this providential day with fireworks, revelry, and pomp and circumstance. Yet perhaps most importantly, our founders were clear-eyed in their day. They did not expect this audacious Declaration of Independence and the path laid forth to be easy. They expected it to be hard, that this great cause of freedom would need to be worked for, fought for, and to be earned. In a letter to his beloved wife, Abigail, John Adams wrote, "You will think me transported with enthusiasm, but I am not. I am well aware of the toil and blood and treasure that it will cost us to maintain this declaration and support and defend these states. Yet through all the gloom I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. I can see that the end is more than worth all the means." You see, the founders knew that this grand experiment of these new United States of America would not be easy. They knew that it would be messy, but above all, they knew that it would be worth it. The cause of independence cost blood, treasure, and lives of courageous men and women who risked it all to protect these words and forge a new nation. Brave American patriots fought and died for the freedom of their fellow citizens and future generations, like our men and women in uniform do today. We understand this deeply where I am from. As Ed mentioned, I was born and raised in upstate New York, the cradle of the American Revolution, home of Fort Ticonderoga, Plattsburgh, and Saratoga, the turning point of the Revolutionary War. These were some of the bloodiest battles of the war, the battlefields just miles from my house. They are hallowed ground where Americans called by God laid down their lives for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And let's remember, not 5 months after the Declaration of Independence, during some of the darkest hours when all was thought to be lost, the great Thomas Paine called on his fellow countrymen and women to remain steadfast in their belief in the cause to secure a new nation. Paine wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls. Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." And how glorious it was, and how glorious it is. Because against all odds, despite thinking all was lost too many times to count, the Americans triumphed and forged the greatest nation in the history of mankind, as the rest of the world watched in wonder and in awe. What joy and astonishment our founders would have if they could look back at the achievements of the past 250 years. America freed men and women from bondage. America rebuilt and reunited after the bloody Civil War. We survived the Great Depression, ushered in the Industrial Revolution, put a man on the moon, stormed, bled, and died on the beaches of Normandy to save the world from tyranny, built historic alliances, and delivered economic and technological advancements fueling greater prosperity and quality of life than they could have ever imagined. It is in their words, on the very parchment at the archives, that our founders ensured that America always remains the world's greatest hope, that we are the pioneers, the warriors and the peacemakers, the believers, the explorers, the inventors, the dreamers and the doers, the cowboys, the builders, and the leaders. What a privilege it is to be an American. I believe this always, but especially at such a time as this. Today, may we cherish and remember our providential past, touched by the hand of God, and may we embark on the next 250 years, guided by the same moral truths in these sacred documents, in this very hall of we the people, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our glorious Declaration of Independence. You know, 250 years ago, when asked what form of government our founders envisioned and decided upon, the great Benjamin Franklin wisely said, "A republic, if you can keep it. We will fight for it, strive for it, protect it, and we will keep it. For we know America is great. We are the keeper of the faith, the defender of the West, and the leader of the free world." Happy 250th birthday, America. You are still so young, so beautiful, and your future of the people, by the people, for the people is so blindingly bright. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
How lucky are we today? This is unbelievable. I'd like to turn now and introduce a couple of other people. I'll start with the chairman of the National Archives Foundation. What a partner organization. We talk about the magic of the National Archives. We wouldn't be as magical without the foundation. And its chairman, who was the 12th U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Rodney Slater, who's here to my left. He was appointed by President Clinton at a time of massive transportation infrastructure investment and made such a difference for all of us. Rodney, thank you for your board, thank you for your staff, thank you for you, and today's events that lead up to this massive, incredible 250th celebration. So let me introduce to you Rodney Slater. Thank you.
Acting Archivist Forst, Secretary Rollins, Congresswoman Stefanik, Congressman Bruce Westerman, from my home state of Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cathedral of Democracy. Welcome to the National Archives. It is said that once the mind reaches forth to embrace a new idea, it can never return to its former state. Such was the work of the founders, to envision that which had never been, to conceive it, to give themselves to the idea, to put it all on the line, and to do so in a way that over time would lead to a gathering such as this. I would say that having heard from our two distinguished speakers, that John Adams heard the words of Abigail as she said, "Don't forget the ladies." I would say that the drafters, dealing with the dynamics and the vicissitudes of the challenges before them, to craft this great nation balancing its various interests, compromising here and there, I would say that when Adams wrote to Abigail, as was noted during the earlier statement, where he talked about the ravishing light and the glory, but also the darkness of the moment, I would say that they all recognized that there were those on the periphery who also wanted to be a part of this language, we the people, and who over time, making their case, would also bring together such a gathering as this. Dr. King once said that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. It was dark in that moment. As was noted, faced with the strongest military of the age, and meeting that force with what some would characterize as sort of a ragtag group, they yet mustered the courage and the will, and also people of all stripes and all colors participating to make the fight and to win the battle. Now, we at the National Archives Foundation, this independent nonprofit partner of the National Archives, we consider it an honor. We consider it an honor, Mr. Archivist, to work with you and your team and to do the good work that we do. It is an honor to be here today, just as it is an honor for the foundation to work every day to expand access and understanding of the National Archives and our shared history that the archives protects. We have our Vice Chair, Ann Chow, and other members of our board here, and I would like for them to just raise their hands so that you can give them a round of applause. And we offer a special thanks to the 250th celebration sponsors, the Boeing Company, Comcast Corporation, Microsoft, P&G, TikTok, Ancestry, John Hancock, Dykema, yes. Give them a round of applause, yes. We also recognize Bank of America. Through their generous support, the National Archives is offering visitors a rare opportunity to see the Declaration of Independence and to explore the entire museum with later hours than normal during the course and during the time of our anniversary. Today and tomorrow are the last 2 days where you have until 10 p.m. to visit the National Archives. And trust me, as has been noted, if you haven't seen the original Declaration of Independence, it's a must-see highlight for your 250th celebration. It is also just one, as Ed noted, one of the billions of records entrusted to the National Archives. From treaties and letters to census records and patents, as noted, photographs and films, the National Archives is literally the keeper of our shared American story. And that American story, it comes from many, many stories, a pluribus unum, out of many one. The National Archives preserves these remarkable records and the foundation works to bring them to audiences across the nation. And just this year, if I may, let me just mention a couple of things that we have done in cooperation with the National Archives to take the documents closer to the American people. We've had these once-in-a-generation opportunities that have been created. One is the Freedom Plain National Tour, which is bringing founding era documents to 8 cities across the country. The exhibition has inspired over 100,000 visitors nationwide, and 2 more tour stops are in front of us. Dearborn, Michigan next week, and Seattle, Washington, the end of July. Just last month, we welcomed thousands of visitors to our Spirit of Independence Festival. The Main Street patriotic event brought country music legend Garth Brooks and veterans and acclaimed chefs together with local students and families and tourists from across the nation to celebrate our history, culture, and American traditions that unite all of us. And together with the archives, we've also opened several exhibitions that you'll be able to see as you visit the archives at the end of our program, expanding educational programming and creating exciting new opportunities for visitors and their engagement. None of that would be possible without the generous friends and members and supporters of the foundation. The work we do is about not just preserving the documents themselves, but it's about preserving the ideals that the documents represent. All men created equal. The work of creating a more perfect union. That is the essence of the ideals behind the documents. That is what we embrace when we behold the wonderful wordsmiths of the documents and embrace those words as the lifeblood, not only of ourselves, but of our democracy. And closing. I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge the power of that idea in foreshadowing my own presence with you. It is said that our lives are like a grain of wheat. It can be ground into flour to make bread, or it can be placed into a sack and placed into a stall and later fed to swine, or it can be buried in the darkness of the earth and come forth 100-fold. The work of our founders was to bury their vision of a new order into the darkness of the earth. And as John said to Abigail, to see that ravishing light through the darkness of the earth, and to know that with the idea and with the will to embrace it, and to cast it forth, that we would indeed have a day like this to celebrate and to call our own.
Thank you, Secretary Slater. It's not the first time I've been put in this position. It is impossible to follow Rodney, as well as our three other distinguished speakers. But I think I have one thing that will capstone our program. At the National Archives, this reading ceremony tradition is older than 50 years, whether it's inside or outside. And we are today, 250 years after its first reading, eager and proud to continue the tradition with a very distinguished group of people who know exactly what it meant to bring the Declaration of Independence to life. We have a tradition at the National Archives at our reading that there must be audience participation, just like there would have been in the colonial times. As our special guests read the grievances against King George, watch for our team holding signs and signaling, and we will express our displeasure with a hearty boo. So on the count of three, let us practice. What do we think about the King George's taxes? 1, 2, 3, boo. Then when we get to the Declaration to become free and independent states, we will show our approval by shouting, huzzah. So what do we think about becoming free and independent states? 1, 2, 3, huzzah! This is going to be fun. Our first three readers are General George Washington, Mr. John Hancock, and Mrs. Abigail Adams. To read the grievances against King George III, we have three leaders of the Second Continental Congress, Mr. Thomas Jefferson, Mr. John Adams, and Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Ladies and gentlemen, the Declaration of Independence.
In Congress, July 4, 1776, a declaration by the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
And to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness.
Huzzah!
Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation until his assent should be attained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new officers and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept armies in times of peace standing without the consent of our legislature.
He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws. giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from any punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, or imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries, so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
Yes, sir!
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
Boom! He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hand.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince, whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
You got that right.
Nor have we been wanting in our attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of the world and mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
Huzzah!
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. And that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown. And that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes,
and our sacred honor.
Thank you. And Mr. Fortin, thank you for leading us. To read the names of the 56 signers of the Declaration, we're proud to have Private Edward Ned Hector of the 3rd Pennsylvania Artillery Company, a free black colonial soldier, patriot, and hero. Private Hector, as he calls out your state, feel free to huzzah to show your support.
My people, I put down my weapon in times of peace. But I will pick it up on behalf of the people. This document that we have just heard, you heard it described as a death warrant. Indeed it is. Which one of you would sign such a document? Would you, sir? Would you, madam? Would you sign your own death warrant? These are the people that were willing to sign this document. These are the people that was willing to give all they had so that a new nation might have birth. Huzzah! Let us read the names of the signers. First of all, the President of the Continental Congress, the Honorable John Hancock. Huzzah! Georgia, Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, and George Walton. Huzzah! North Carolina. All right. William Hoop, Joseph Hughes, and John Penn. Huzzah! Huzzah! South Carolina. Indeed. Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., and Arthur Middleton. Huzzah! Maryland. All right, all right. Samuel Chase, William Packer, Thomas Stone, and Charles Carrollton of Carrollton.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
Let's make this good, right?
Huzzah!
Huzzah! Virginia! George Wythe, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot Lee, and Charles Braxton. Huzzah! Pennsylvania! Yes.
All right, Pennsylvania.
Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, James Wilson, and George Ross. Huzzah! Delaware!
Delaware, where you at? Huzzah! We got
Okay,
huzzah
good.
right there.
Caesar Rodney, George Reed, and Thomas McKean. Huzzah! New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! New Jersey,
Huzzah! Come on, Jersey, where you at?
Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, and Abraham Clark.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Where are you, New Hampshire?
There she is, way up in the back. Huzzah! Huzzah, man.
Matthew Thornton, Josiah Bartlett, and William Whipple.
Huzzah!
Rhode Island.
There we go.
There we
Rhode
go.
Island.
There we go. Stephen Hopkins and William Ellery. Huzzah! Connecticut. My friend.
Try that again.
Roger
sir.
Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, and Oliver Wolcott. Huzzah! And all of this is attested to by the Secretary, Charles Thompson. Huzzah! And to this, we, the people, we all say,
yes, sir.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Again! Huzzah! Once again! Huzzah! Yes!
Huzzah! Love you guys. See y'all next year. All right.
Oh, sir, I have stood there too many cannons. Did I forget Massachusetts? How could I forget Massachusetts? My friends, let me tell you the people from Massachusetts. Guess who we have there? Samuel Adams! John Adams! Robert Treat Payne! And Elbridge Gerry! You know what this proves? The people will not forget their own. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, we are not the nation of booze anymore. We're the nation of huzzah. Let's go. Thank you to that group. I have to say, you can read the Declaration of Independence or you can listen this way. Which is better? But you got to go upstairs. Go upstairs and get this close to it, okay? It will mean even more now that we're all here together. I want to shout out a thank you here to the National Archives staff. You know, it is... all you guys. It is, I look at Trevor up there. It is hard to make it look this easy, but this is incredible. This is your archives. Enjoy it till 10 p.m. We are going to conclude the program by bringing back Master Sergeant Caleb Green for America the Beautiful, and then get yourselves upstairs and enjoy the rest of the 4th of July. Thank you all very much.
Happy birthday, America. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties, above the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, from sea to shining sea. God bless you. Happy birthday.